women's ambition is actually weaponized against them. So essentially they're caught in a catch-22 where they're being told the reason you're not getting ahead is because you're not doing these things. And yet when they do these things, ask for a raise, put themselves ahead in the workplace, speak up, assert themselves, they're more likely to face backlash and penalties relative to their male peers. So I spoke to women who negotiated their salaries and had job offers rescinded simply for doing so. I spoke to women who were labeled ungrateful, difficult, not a great fit, not a team player for asserting themselves and really doing the very things they have been told to do to get ahead.
Oh, yeah. God. Welcome to the Audacity, the podcast for ambitious women. And we are so excited to welcome a very special guest today. Her name is Stefanie O'Connell, and she's going to be talking to us all about the ambition penalty that women experience in the workplace and how that ties into life in general for women. And we also have, as always, a very juicy show for y'all as far as the tea time goes, as far as our mailbag goes. We're going to be reacting to a couple of videos, one where a man loses a chess match, and then one that we were tagged in a lot. There's a video of a girl who gets stuck in an elevator with a bunch of young men, and we're going to video react to that as well. And then, of course, we need to talk about voter rights and hopefully just discuss, where do we go from here, like how to kind of take it in, and hopefully talk a little bit about the silver lining of all that. And later we'll open up the mailbag and read a message from a 19-year-old listener who calls herself an oxymoron because she's pro-choice, pro-LGBTQ, feminist, Catholic, who ignores 95% of the Bible and wants to know if that makes her a bad feminist, a bad Catholic, or both. So stick around for that. I'm very excited to dive into that mailbag because that was a mouthful. Right. And as always, we are so excited to bring you our Crumpets mini show, the after show, in which we will be doing a Would You Rather game. And we are so excited to dive into some of those. We have a lot of really difficult choices on the list. So I'm excited to parse those out as always. And if you're not sure where to get that Crumpets mini show, you can subscribe to our YouTube memberships, which will allow you access to the Crumpets and the Crumpets only. Or you can join our Patreon community, which will give you access to that and much more, which I will let Sovereign tell you all about right now.
Yeah, so first and foremost, we have new Tea VIP Patreon members. We have Afton, Chanel, Emily the Cat Lady. I love it. Megan and Bunny, welcome.
Oh my goodness.
I know, what a list.
What a list. Welcome, y'all. Thank you.
And if you have not joined our Patreon, do so and become a TVIP member for perks like early access to every episode and the show notes, ad-free listening or viewing. You'll get our weekly bonus unhinged and uncensored Crumpets after show. You'll also get priority mailbag and topic submissions, and you'll get voting power on future topics. Most importantly, you'll get access to our private women's only community and chat channels just for you. So head on over to patreon.com/audacity.
Thank you. And we hope to see y'all there. We work hard to make the community a safe space and, a good place for all sorts of discussions. So come on over and check it out. The entry tiers are free. So you still have access to a lot of the content, including the polls and stuff like that. So come on in. But without further ado, let's get into our tea time. And I would like to start with the voting rights. They did it. They did it. We knew it was coming, and here it is. And now it's here. And yeah, it's a somber moment for sure. It's hard to know like what to say, because I think a lot of people had this idea that stuff like this can't happen.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yes. Can you like put in layman's terms for the people who might not know what happened or what this means moving forward?
Yeah. So basically they're coming after everybody's rights by reversing laws that were there to protect from discrimination. And so now basically you have to prove that there was an intent to discriminate which it's very hard to do, right? Especially in a country like America, where people love to claim that like racism is a thing of the past and we don't see color and blah, blah, blah. So now basically the way that this works out for voting is that you basically can make it as difficult for people to vote as possible without ever having any consequences for it, which is basically voter manipulation. They're basically allowing fraud on the basis of discrimination by removing these protections.
So yes, if you are a minority and I know they were fighting really hard for the political maps, where it's like we can cram all of the Black people into this facility over here, because this facility over here, we don't even have to count that. We can just pretend like we're counting it. It's little things that they're going to do in that regard, and trying to say, well, I'm going to sue them for discrimination. The whole point of them overturning this was so that you can't. That's literally the whole point of doing this, so that you can talk about suing all you want, but there's literally nothing you can do at this point. And I just want to remind the people that this is what a lot of people voted for in this country. And so here we are. And for those of you who still want to be ignorant and think things like this can't happen, like what else needs to happen for you to realize that all the things that can't happen has been happening in the last year alone, let alone the last 10 years. Like, I'm just saying, for an example, it's been continuously happening. It's like, oh, no, this will never happen. It happened. Oh, they can't do that. That's another phrase I hear a lot of people say. Yeah, they can't do that. They're doing it. They've been doing it. What you mean? What do you mean? So I hope this forces people to wake up. I don't know if it's too late as far as like where we're headed in this country. Is definitely headed for collapse. I mean, clearly this is like the country's last ditch effort, like to claw their way to keep power. That's what's happening. All empires fall sooner or later. I think the U.S. is falling, and that's just what this is. But a lot of people, a lot of groups of people are going to be affected. I feel like everybody's going to be affected, actually.
Absolutely, everybody. That's
everybody.
The joke. Like,
everybody
that's the
who
thing
lives in this country is going to be affected. Everybody.
Absolutely.
Think about Spirit Airlines, for an example. They just, can you believe Spirit Airlines is like gone? And a lot of people pay money for flights and stuff, and apparently they're not getting their money back. I don't know how true that is. That's just what I've been hearing, because they're gone now. It's like they're done. And it's not going to end with Spirit Airlines. But the way that it shows up with everyone is that, okay, 17,000 people, whatever, lost their jobs. It's not just those people. It's the vendors. It's everybody who had jobs within that airport. It's going to be the people who were paying for childcare that, in their own communities that are no longer going to be receiving money for childcare. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's all systemic. Everybody,
it's a ripple effect. Absolutely.
Yes, the banks, everybody is going to be affected by this. And that's the part that I want people to understand. This is going to hurt everyone. And I'm just using Spirit Airlines as just one example of how it's a ripple effect.
Absolutely, everyone. And the other worst part of it is that it's going to make it easier to hoard wealth and power at the top. So anyone that even thinks like remotely this is going to benefit them as a regular person, the joke is on you, because you're really just, all that this is doing is gutting protections against the rich, is gutting like our ability to fight back against things like discrimination, unfair workplace practices, is going to gut all of that at the end of the day. It's the only silver lining that I see here. We kind of talked about this before the show, but like as someone from the former Soviet Union, like I can tell you, if your votes didn't matter, they wouldn't need to be doing all this.
That's what
they would just like present policy, lay it out, and people would just have to do it. Right. So there is an element to this that it's like, I don't want people to get too nihilistic, because y'all do, like in the US, you do have protections. There are checks and balances. I mean, even this morning we had this quick whiplash of they're banning the mailing of mifestrone or whatever, yeah. Thank you for saying it.
The abortion pill.
The abortion pill. And then come to find out that there was the Supreme Court restored it based on you can now request it as a telehealth thing. And so it's like I know the bureaucracy can seem really infuriating sometimes, but also the bureaucracy kind of keeps things from moving too fast.
Far or too far,
yeah,
absolutely.
Too far, too fast. Exactly. And other countries don't have that. Other countries don't have any of these like levels of protections. And so it's like, now this is the time to get very involved in like local things. I mean, it has been time, but like, if you haven't done that yet, please like get involved, like organize on a local level. Your votes have power. That's all that tells me.
Thank you for saying that. And just like I've always said that I've had my doubts on if our votes count or not. On one hand, you feel like they do because look at what they're doing to try to keep us from voting. On the other hand, it's like, but does it really matter? I'm going to tell y'all again, vote just in case it counts. Just in case if you don't think it counts, I understand exactly where you're coming from. I promise. Especially as a Black person in this country. However, it's not going to hurt you to just vote just in case it counts. Just because if you do nothing, then you don't have any right to complain because you're out of the fight. You're making your own voice obsolete by not even trying to do anything. I would say at least do it for the just in case. That's why I vote. I vote just in case it counts because it doesn't hurt me when I get up and go to the voting booth. It literally takes like 10 or 15 minutes of my day. Like, it's really not that big of a deal. You know what I mean? Maybe it may take an hour or two, depending on where you stay and how long, they're going to start cramming us into certain areas. Please get ahead of this. If you need to change your last name back, just in case, I'm just saying, just do all these things and make sure you have all these things in place. There's a lot of stuff to do before the midterms if we make it. But I hate to say that. But
I know.
There's things that you can do. Just make sure you're still registered. Make sure you know where your voting place is and all that stuff. Because a lot of people wait to the last minute and then it's too late. Just get ahead of it, y'all. And do it just in case it counts. That's all I'm going to tell y'all. Just in case.
Yep. I mean, even just hearing you talk about that was crazy because I live in a mail-in voting state.
Oh my God.
So like the thought of even going to the polls and stuff is like, why would it ever be that inconvenient for people just to vote?
I know.
Like,
I never trusted it. I never trusted mail-in voting. I don't know why. I just always thought it was something weird about that. But I understand why it exists. Everybody can get out and vote. I understand that. But
like, that's how I see, but coming from the USSR, that's how I feel about the voting boxes. I'm like, okay, so the people are like right there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like they can like, people can mess with it right then and there. Like if you have no faith, in one, it's kind of like hard to have faith in the other. Because, like, as a citizen, what are you doing to prevent any kind of fraud on any level? Like we have to either trust the system or not trust the system. But like,
that's true.
That's so true. I understand. I understand the skepticism, but it's like I had to register to vote to get that ballot mailed. Everyone that I've talked to, I should say, that's a Republican, is very excited about the mail-in voting. Like they're not, when they live in a blue state, right? And you're talking to a Republican, you can pry the mail-in voting out of their cold dead hands. Like they love it. So like most of the Republican people that talk about how like mail-in voting is fraudulent or whatever, like they live in states where they don't do that because we, like the people that live in these states, like we know it's very legit. I don't know. Yeah. It's not the kind of system that's easy to game.
I know what you're saying.
All right. Well, we have some videos to react to. Let's start with the elevator one because that one is more unsettling.
Hello?
Hey, we're stuck.
Okay, which school are you in?
Palmetto.
Palmetto.
Senior. High school.
Middle school.
Do you think this is fucking funny?
Yes.
It's not. Deadass, nobody's fucking laughing. You guys are fucking laughing when we're stuck in an elevator. So just shut up so I can fix this. Okay? Like, I don't know any of you guys. And you guys are so fucking immature. And you guys are fat because you can't walk down the stairs, obviously.
Yes.
Right? So just shut up and let me fix this, okay? Like, laugh all you want, but we're stuck in an elevator. So, hey!
Okay, let me get it.
No.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I'd be so terrified.
It really just goes to show how a lot of them just don't take anything seriously at all. It's like, oh, sure, let's go rock climbing with no rope. You know what I mean? It's just kind of giving like, okay, whatever happens. You just can't hang out with people like that. And I would be terrified to be stuck in an elevator with a bunch of young boys who think everything is funny because it's like all it's going to take is for the the worst of them to do something, and then the rest of them are absolutely going to join in, and it doesn't even matter what it is. And of course, there's always going to be one or two of them that are going to sit by and be terrified and do nothing. But the vast majority, which is just as bad in my opinion, but the vast majority of them would just join in, whatever it is, hazing her, assaulting, whatever it is. And that is terrifying. And I know they're kids, and I get it. At the same time, it's like they don't take anything seriously, but at the same time, it's just like she did.
She's a kid too.
I know.
She's their age.
But I'm saying boys
Yeah.
that age just don't take stuff seriously. They just don't. And
because we don't expect them to.
And I hate
she
that.
does because we do. I mean, you laid it out perfectly. Like the scenario that would have run through every woman's head, like you just laid it out right then and there. It's like it only takes one of them to do something questionable before the rest of them join in. Like you said, whether it's like hazing, whether it's even preventing her from making that phone call for help.
Absolutely.
I could see how, it's very terrifying because this is where you see how early it starts.
Yeah.
Because you should think like you guys are in high school, like you're all kids, but they're not all kids anymore. They're very aware of their, the patriarchy forces both boys and girls to kind of grow up real fast in different ways,
Absolutely.
and boys start kind of claiming this unchecked power and girls start understanding that unless you can kind of like make yourself scary to these people, they're not going to take you seriously. Like she had to make herself scary.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that's a part of where her anger was coming from because she was probably afraid.
Yeah.
Like, and she has every right to be because in many situations that could have turned out very bad for her, only her. That's the thing. If something would have happened,
they wouldn't even be punished
They
for it.
wouldn't be punished. They're going to lie for each other. They're going to say she's crazy, and that's a very terrifying situation to be in. I'm glad, hopefully we didn't see, but I think she was, made it out okay.
Yeah, hopefully. And luckily one of them was recording. I actually think low-key that probably prevented
Yeah, that's a good point.
Who knows? And it's also like, this is why guys will be like, why can't girls go to the bathroom alone? They always want to go with another woman, blah, blah, blah. Literally, this is why. We don't want to fucking end up alone with a bunch of dudes anywhere at any point.
That are immature and don't take anything seriously.
The situation is so precarious. Literally.
Yeah.
And our life is a joke to them.
Yeah.
So,
our fear is a joke.
You.
Our life is a joke. Everything is a joke to them.
Yeah. All right, well, one more video.
You really wasted my time. Fuck you, but I hope you have fun with the convention.
Okay.
I'll see you in a little bit, all right?
Yeah, see you soon.
Thank you.
Hello. You want to clip this on?
Sure. Oh, you're a streamer?
Yes, I am a streamer. Well,
Oh.
best of luck. This is our last game. I believe it closes at 7 today. So.
6, actually.
6? There's only half an hour left. Take your queen.
Oh, shit, I forgot I can do that.
Yeah. Take queen.
Just get bored.
Yeah. You're running out of time, though.
What happens if I run out of time?
You lose the game. But it's okay, you can use some of mine. I do have to run, though, because I didn't realize the con is closing at 6. That's time. Yeah. Okay. I'll pack up while you make your move.
You know what? I surrender.
Are you sure? Okay. GG's.
Really?
All right.
It took forever.
Okay. Oh shit! He took the mic. Oh, hello. He took the microphone. It's all right. He forgot about that. So he wanted it. Yeah.
I feel like you really wasted my time.
Oh, I'm so sorry about that.
You told me after this person, and then another person comes in.
I'm so sorry about that.
That guy, you're like, oh, I'm gonna see you at dinner later.
Yeah.
God, I was waiting here for like half an hour.
Can I
just rush through it?
Well, you're welcome to play out the rest of that game if you want to. I gave you that option. Okay, I'm so sorry about it. Is there anything I can make up for it? I can give you chess.com diamond memberships or anything like that.
Free membership for chess.com?
Yeah, if you want one. Okay, take a picture. I'm gonna give you a second one as well. And heck, since you're the last person for tonight, take a picture of the third one. So then if you redeem these, you'll just have like 3 months free membership. There you go. Take a picture of that one too. Sorry about that. I'm really sorry if you feel like you wasted your time.
You did waste my time.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Fuck you, but I hope you have fun with the convention.
Okay.
Whoa.
Are you serious?
The guy there was so like, fuck you, gave me the middle finger off, like, he like checked, he wasn't on stream, gave me the middle finger, said fuck you twice. Yeah.
It's fucking chess, dog. Oh my god.
It got worse. It just got worse and worse.
And for those that couldn't see the clip, this was from like a chess championship, and there was a young woman who was obviously being way too nice and accommodating
very much
of this incel coded man. I don't really know how else to describe his behavior. Like, what did you say? Industrial strength incel vibes.
Yes.
Yes, that's a Sovereign original, and I love it. Absolutely industrial strength.
I
Like,
forgot
you could
about that.
comment, you could smell it coming off of him, like from far away. But yeah, so they were just at a chess membership or a chess championship, and the guy couldn't like think of the move. And so this young lady was like, you can, like, once your time runs out, you can use my time to think on your move. Like, she literally, that was her first concession to him.
Right.
And then he like couldn't think of a move because I think there was no possibility in which she wasn't going to win the game. And like, they both knew that. So then he was like, yeah, actually, well, I surrender, whatever. And she's like, okay, no problem. Then he comes back 2 minutes later and he's like, I feel like you really wasted my time, and starts like cussing at her and stuff like that. And she's like, well, if you feel like I wasted your time, like, what can I do for you? Blah, blah, blah. And like gives him all of these concessions.
Right.
And at the end of the day,
Which
he's
he
like,
didn't
fuck
deserve.
you. Yeah.
Which he didn't deserve, by the way.
And it's like, I could see why she was doing that, because again, we as women are taught to be like, don't piss these men off. Like, I'm sure, especially in male dominated like fields like that, women are especially warned, like, you could lose your life over a game of chess.
Literally.
So please, like, be nice to these men. Do not let them like whatever. But how far can you take it? Like, she was so nice to him, and he still at the end of the day was like, fuck you.
I wonder, was her because she was overly nice, very sweet. But I wonder, did that anger him more? Did he feel more inferior or more emasculated because she was?
Probably.
Because it's just like, how fucked up are you mentally? Because if anything, if he was really pissed off and she gave him those concessions, a normal-minded person would have been like, okay, she tried to make it right, even though she technically didn't need to. Okay. And that's it. Like, but you have to go and say fuck you at the very end after she did all of that. Like, he's mentally unstable. Men like that terrify the shit out of me, by the way.
No, seriously. Seriously. I couldn't agree more, because that is absolutely like, it's just the lowest rung of male behavior, honestly. Like taking somebody's kindness for weakness too. I think that was partly it too. Like, it probably pissed him off that she was such a gracious winner.
Right.
But it also probably like pissed him off that like,
because it's like, what the fuck? Like, she did all of that. I hope she remembered who he was, so that he didn't get those 3 months of free diamond membership or whatever it was called, like platinum membership. I hope so, because he's an asshole.
I just can't believe women are forced to deal with that kind of like. The reason that that's going viral, again, you have to understand, and like nobody is defending him or whatever, is because both men and women know this type of behavior is extremely common. Like,
it is.
This is, she's just showing one example of like, this happens a million times a day too, especially to women who play chess, who play D&D, who compete in any basketball, right? Yeah. Any sort of like typically male dominated fields, like women are a threat to men in those fields.
Remember, was it last year or was it in 24, the guy who killed that girl because she beat him in a game of one-on-one? That was his reason. That was his reason. Because she won and he shot her and she died.
And that's why I think that's why she was so nice to that chess guy.
Absolutely.
Because it's like, that's your other option.
This is not worth
if you're
me
like,
dying.
yeah, fuck you, I won, you lost, like, you're a fucking loser, and you walk away from that.
She could have been killed.
She could have been killed, stalked out in that parking lot and killed. And you never know which one it is. You can't tell by the man.
Oh, you can never tell.
You can never tell. So sometimes they'll get mad. Sometimes they'll go quiet.
Mm-hmm. You just never know. And that the never knowing is why women feel like we have to be overly nice, because you just never know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. All right. Well, we will be right back with our interview with Stefanie O'Connell, who's going to teach us all about the ambition gap and how that applies to us as women and what, sort of some of the solutions are. But please stick around because it's going to be a great conversation. Welcome back. We are so excited for our discussion with author Stefanie O'Connell.
Woo!
Welcome,
welcome.
Stefanie.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for hyping me up. I really need it right now. Thanks.
Yes, don't we all? I mean,
I know.
yes, I love being able to support other women on this podcast. And so we're so excited to talk to you about your book, The Ambition Penalty. And if you could just tell the audience, a couple things about you, who you are, what you do, and then we'll jump in.
So, hey, everybody, I'm the author of The Ambition Penalty, How Corporate Culture Tells Women to Step Up and then pushes them down. So I've been reporting on women and money and work for over a decade, and I had forever been steeped in this kind of story about what really stands in the way of women's access to equal pay, equal power, equal respect, autonomy, personal safety. And it was always this idea that the biggest barrier to a woman's advancement and getting what she wants is herself, a lack of confidence, an unwillingness to ask for more, imposter syndrome. You know the story. We all know the story. We grew up with it, right? If you just spoke up, asserted yourself, were ambitious enough, you could access the same pay, power, rewards, safety, all that as your male peers. And what I found in my reporting on this is that wasn't true. Everyone around me was doing all of the quote unquote right things. And it really inspired me to look into the research to see, is it just the people I know? Is it just where I'm living? Is it this industry? Is it these kinds of people? But no, it was that women in general are doing all of these quote unquote right things. And yet they're still experiencing the same inequities, the same gaps, the same kinds of barriers that we've been dealing with for the last 2 decades, 3 decades, going back and back and back. And so the process of writing this book was really the process of asking the question, why? If we were sold the story that it was a confidence problem, that it was an ambition problem, that it was all these other things we've been told, and that's actually not the case, what is the case? And the book is really a data deep dive into answering that question.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's incredible. I know I'm waiting for my copy in the mail. I can't wait to crack it open because this is something we've been asked to talk about on the podcast a lot. And it's, means so much to be able to bring on like an actual expert and just someone who's been literally doing the journalism and the research and the deep dive and the investigative part of it is so important because you're so right. Like women are told this kind of stuff all the time. And there's so much to say and we have so many questions for you. So I hope that you're ready. But before we jump into all of that, we, as always, have our icebreaker, which is what is your hottest take? And it can, have something to do with the subject at hand today or just in general. Your hottest take or your audacity?
Well, my take is that men are not falling behind. Men are being radicalized. And I'd argue that as a parent myself, we're kind of under the delusion that we're raising our kids differently. And I don't see any evidence of that. I think there's a bigger story here that we are all being taught to believe that being able to make more money and access more power with less education and fewer credentials is a crisis somehow of masculinity and not misogyny. To believe that men having 400 extra hours of free time relative to women every single year is a crisis somehow of men and boys. To believe that men outnumbering women in positions of leadership 5-1 in the corporate world and a gender pay gap that hasn't budged in 20 years is a sign of women taking over. I mean, this is total radicalization that isn't just being imposed upon men, it's being imposed upon all of us.
Absolutely. Oh my God. I think you need to write another book.
I know. That alone
That's all
is
I'm
another
hearing
book.
because I'm like, I know there's like evidence here. And especially about the part where it's like, we're not seeing any evidence that we're raising our children any differently. That's kind of like sending my mind in like a million different directions now because
it caught me off guard. I have to tell you, I have a daughter and I can tell you every time on the playground, she's only 2 years old, and I can see already the kind of idea that boys will be boys, but she should be held to a higher standard. And basically really reinforcing this idea of fundamental and totally natural differences in a gender binary that really reinforces the whole issue of hierarchy and a belief in male supremacy to begin with.
Oh my God.
Wow.
I can only imagine, like, as a mom, just
Right.
watching that. Like, it's one thing, like, when it happens to you as a woman, like, throughout your own life, but like watching it happen and like be imposed to your child, like, that would make me want to get violent.
I swear.
I commend you.
Yeah, it happens when you're pregnant too. It's kind of crazy the extent to which we've told ourselves we're going to be the change, we're going to be the future. And as soon as you start talking about what your baby's going to be, my goodness, all of the underlying social conditioning really reveals itself real quick.
I think it's amazing that you recognize that. Because I think it's a lot. I don't know for sure, but it doesn't seem like most parents take the time to think about that. I think people get caught up with life and paying bills, and you got to be here and there, that people don't really have time to stop and notice what's happening. And then when they do notice, it's usually too late. You know, it's like, oh shit, what should I do about this? So I think that's amazing that you
And then it's like, oh, well, yeah.
noticed it. Yeah.
Well, you know, the water we swim in, the air we breathe, it's those kinds of norms, what we've been taught to perceive as natural, to not question, to not have it stop us in our tracks. That's what enables this stuff to continue. And I really am grateful that I actually started researching, writing this book in earnest when I was pregnant. I sold my book proposal 8 months pregnant, and I wrote the book through the process of my first year postpartum. It's coming out now that my daughter's 2.5. And I'm so grateful because it released me from so much of, first of all, being able to stop in my tracks and recognize that these aren't normal things. These are imposed things, and they're reproducing outcomes that I do not want to pass down and beliefs I do not want to pass down. But second of all, it also released me from feeling any mom guilt. Mom guilt is not an emotion I experience, because by researching my book, what became really clear is that feeling is not there to serve me. It's not even there to serve my child.
Right.
It is there to say, you as a mom who already statistically do more for your child than anybody by a long shot should feel like you should have to do even more. And that's not to benefit your child. It's to benefit a system that doesn't want to step in and to support you, provide meaningful childcare, provide meaningful infrastructure and a social safety net, and put upon you what the system fails to offer, and save men from having to pick up the slack in the process.
Right.
That's exactly right.
First of all, that is so badass. Like, I'm like literally picturing you 8 months pregnant, writing a book, sitting there at your computer.
I mean, it wasn't cute. It wasn't.
But it just goes to
kind
show.
of the point.
Yeah,
it's like you were fighting a war. Like,
absolutely. Women are such badass. Like, this is the type of stuff that I love to see, because it's like, it's not that we should romanticize being hard workers necessarily, but it just highlights how great we fucking are. Like, we can do whatever we put our minds to. I love that so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And that's what I want to make, right? I want to make a world where our personal and professional lives, or our public and private aspirations, are not mutually exclusive, but mutually reinforcing. And I want to show up that way in the world too, for what I'm modeling for my daughter and for anyone else who wants to do that.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah. So will you tell us a little bit, like, the thesis of your book is that there's an ambition penalty. So when you say that, like, what does that really mean?
Yeah, so I was speaking before about how women were really told that the biggest barrier to getting ahead was themselves, their lack of ambition or confidence or willingness to ask for more. And this book really looks at the way that women's ambition is actually weaponized against them. So essentially, they're caught in a catch-22, where they're being told the reason you're not getting ahead is because you're not doing these these things. And yet when they do these things, ask for a raise, put themselves ahead in the workplace, speak up, assert themselves, they're more likely to face backlash and penalties relative to their male peers. So I spoke to women who negotiated their salaries and had job offers rescinded simply for doing so. I spoke to women who were labeled ungrateful, difficult, not a great fit, not a team player for asserting themselves and really doing the very things they had been told to do to get ahead. And even if you think about the word ambitious and putting a different pronoun in front of it, if you say he's ambitious, it implies, again, speaking of the air we breathe, it implies somebody you want to work with. The guy is the kind of guy we want on our team, just the kind of leader we need in our organization. You change that pronoun to she's ambitious and it comes immediately with baggage. What a bitch. Problem. Difficult. You know, how many times have we seen this play out in celebrity and politics? Everywhere you look, we see examples of this. And it's just really an indicator of the double standard that effectively winds up recreating the same inequality, even as more explicit barriers to women's participation fall away. So now it's not that we don't allow women to be in this role, but by holding them to a double standard where we can say either they're not ambitious enough or too ambitious, there still is effectively no right way for them to get ahead. And so you can create the same outcome, even if you're being a little bit less explicit about it. And in the book, I show that this shows up not just across behavior, but across identity. So there was a great paper that looked at what happens when women were being considered for leadership consideration relative to their male peers. And as always, women were less likely to be considered leaders, but not in the a woman can't be a leader kind of way. Instead, their other identity characteristics were weaponized against them through double standards that were not applied to their male peers. So you have a young woman, she's too young to be a leader, nobody's going to take her seriously. You have an older woman, she's really too old for leadership, past her prime. Same age, right? Same with a young man, you get, oh, that's the guy we need. That's the fresh new thinking. He's got those skills. You get an older man that he's a mature leader. He's got experience. So effectively, the double standards work in the same way. It's just better hidden. And in this paper, they found 30 different identity characteristics that were weaponized against women in this way, from age to race to parental status to physical attractiveness. So basically, you have this whole system, whether it's identity or behavior like ambition, that is being weaponized against us while we're pretending that it's all fair and equal and inequality is all in the past.
Oh, my God. What an eye-opener.
Right? And it was so crazy too, like hearing you in some of your other interviews talk about the whole like trad wife thing. And it just made me think about it's another one of these like goalpost things too. It's another one of these like double penalties, because as a trad wife, you know, you're certainly like dependent on a man, like you're certainly dependent on like benevolent patriarchy. And the alternative to that, right, is boss babe your way out of it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's neither one of those things is easy. Like women are always caught between a rock and a hard place.
You know what I think people don't recognize when we have this girl boss versus trad wife conversation is that at the end of the day, they're both selling you the same fundamental ideal. And the idea is that you can just self-optimize your way into getting more of what you want. Now, they both sell you different visions of what you should, quote unquote, want as a woman, right? And for the trad wife ideal, it's that you should want to give up your own public ambitions in service of your husband and submitting to him. And the way in which to do that is to self-optimize your way into quote unquote femininity per very white supremacist, heteronormative, patriarchal standards, being more soft, being more feminine, whatever they mean. We know what they mean.
Right.
For the girl boss, it's a different ideal. The ideal is, you know, you get ahead, you lean in, you go full throttle boss babe. But still, it's this same idea that you can self-optimize your way into doing that by just being confident and speaking up and asking for more. Now, those are two different visions, but the two different visions rely on the same fundamental formula and the idea that the problem is you, and you can self-optimize your way into getting more of what you want, whatever what you want is. And in that way, both of those formulas are fundamentally flawed, because what the research shows us again and again and again is that the biggest barrier to women getting what they want isn't within them. It's experienced in the world around them and in these kinds of double standards that they encounter when they express either their full-throated ambition a la girl boss or their full-throated ambition a la trad wife. It's a relationship to the environment around them that is subjecting them to this these unequal outcomes, no matter how much or how little their ambition they claim.
Yeah.
Another way that shows up too, because, we're child-free. And so in the child-free, the life of a child-free woman in the workplace, it's like you are expected to be a mother at some point. They're like, we're not going to hire you, though, if you're a mother. But then if you don't want kids, we don't really like you. We don't really want your kind around here because you are not a team player when some mom needs extra vacation days and you're the child-free one. So you should be the one to pick up the slack. It's like you can't win either way.
You can't win. And I actually, when I originally wrote the book, after my whole chapter on household inequality, I wrote a whole chapter on the stigmatization of single women. And we wound up combining it all into one chapter because essentially it's really two flip sides of the same coin. Yeah. And to your point, you can follow the prescription or you can push back against it, but there's going to be penalties either way. And what the point of this book is saying is recognize that, right? Recognize that and internalize it as wisdom, that you actually cannot self-optimize your way out of the problem. You can't choose differently because it's not an individual problem. Right. It's a collective problem that we are all experiencing in the world around us. We so often think of things like misogyny and racism and homophobia as these very individual things, me versus you, man versus woman. But no, these are really collective norms and of status quo that we are pushing back against that says what it means to be a good woman or a good professional is to look like this and act like this. And unfortunately for women, it sets you up in immediate tension because the ideal of what it means to be a good woman is in direct conflict with what it means to be a quote unquote good leader or good worker or professional. And so you're set up to either face the penalties of being labeled unwomanly and not warm and being perceived as hostile or bitchy if you don't comply with womanhood because you're complying with leadership, or you comply with your womanhood. And then it's like, well, she's a mom. She doesn't deserve to be paid the same anyway. So when there is no way to win, what I think it tells us is that we are much better served by stopping this twisting ourselves into knots, trying to make ourselves palatable to the systems that be, and pretending that we must have just asked the wrong way, or if we do it a little bit more nicely, or if we bake cookies for people when we do it next time, it'll all turn out differently. It's a waste of our time and energy. And what we really need to go do is look at the policies that have really shifted our outcomes in the past. Because when you look at where progress has been meaningfully made over the course of history, it was never about what we did individually or internally. It was changes that were made in the environments and institutions around us, where we said, you actually can't discriminate against people based on their marital status or their race or their gender and whether they can access a job or credit or all of these fundamental things that allow us to access equal power.
Oh, my brain is going in so many different directions because I want to talk about is capitalism fundamentally incompatible with, you know what I'm saying? Because again, that's the problem with sort of wanting to boss baby your way out of oppressive systems. But are you using an oppressive system to do so?
To do so.
And how does, like intersectionality fall
That's a
into
good
that? Because like
question.
white women, boss babing looks very different than black women.
So what I like to look at is not how does a woman get ahead, but how do women, all women across identity, get ahead. For me, this is the metric that matters. And that's why in the book, I use a very data-driven approach, because it's not really helpful to me to know that a single woman is in a position of power if she's using her power, or first, if she's accessing that power by conforming to a very white supremacist, patriarchal, old boys club standard, where we see this in contemporary culture all of the time. Very, very high profile woman in politics right now, really just being used as a cover for the totally inhumane, xenophobic, misogynistic, supremacist administration and policies that they are enacting. And then what do you do when it's just so obvious how inhumane those policies are? Well, then they can just toss the woman out the door and scapegoat her while all the policies stay in place. Right?
We literally just talking about this. Oh my God, that's so funny.
I dedicated a whole chapter of my book to really understanding that piece of the problem, because there's so many dynamics at work there. And part of them are like, it's tricky because the incentive structure is like, well, uphold the status quo and we will reward you. But I am not interested in reward for the sake of a single woman. I'm interested in reward for the sake of all women's liberation, right? Yeah. So I really hate the language of choice feminism, the idea that the ultimate metric of feminism is any individual woman's choice. Justice Amy Coney Barrett, I'm sure, is making her own choices every day. She is choosing to take away other women's rights, voting rights, plenty of things. She is not a feminist just because she is a woman doing those things.
Right.
And so when I'm looking at, the capitalism of it all, like what's feminist, what isn't, I'm always thinking in terms of collective outcomes, collective power, women as a social class, and what improves all of our well-being in the enormous, diverse social class that it is. And the metrics and the policies that support from the bottom, as well as access upward. Because actually, when you do have women in positions of power, and the critical difference is en masse, not a token, but at scale, that's when you actually do see outcomes throughout organizations really start to shift. Because then you don't have a woman who's up there just because she's providing cover for a really exclusionary status quo. And if you have enough women in there, they get buy-in to one another's ideas enough such that they're able to implement really meaningful status quo changes, right? Flexible work, things like making sure parents aren't excluded, making sure single people aren't excluded, right? Being aware, again, because they've had the experience themselves of the things that are really standing in the way of not just women's advancement, but everyone's advancement. And the framework I use in the book it's based off of the economist, I think it's Janelle James. Her framework is called Black Women Best. And basically the idea is if you optimize an economy to work for the people who've been historically marginalized within that economy, everyone will be better served by crafting the policies. And I extend this to Black women best and single mothers best. Because if you craft policies that make combining our access to pay, power, wellness, autonomy, safety, the essentials of life, more accessible to the people with the least access to it, everybody will be better served as a result. So that's really the framework I'm using, is very much the opposite of this hyper-individualistic, neoliberal ideal of how we've been taught to think through the capitalism of it all, but instead trying to think more expansively and collectively, and not just to the top, but from the bottom.
Yeah.
That's why they're so terrified. They know. I know. That's why they have a vested interest in keeping women of race, regardless of race and, socioeconomic status and all that. They need women fighting with each other. They need us divided. They know that if we were to collectively come together, the world would be better in general. There's just, we were talking about this last week. There are so many things that women would not even allow to happen. You know what I'm saying?
In the first place.
In the first place.
And we have the data. Like, we know that actually everyone's outcomes are better when there's less gender inequality. Men's too. There's less income inequality. Yep. There's longer lifespans, longer healthy lifespans, less political violence, fewer anti-democratic tendency, better standards of living, less wealth inequality. We see it everywhere. And so one of the things that I think about a lot is how much the way the current system really incentivizes men to maintain their relative power, meaning power over women, over optimizing for their absolute well-being. So what I mean by that is...
Say more.
Instead of making sure that they have access to enough money to support themselves, support their family, enough work-life balance, enough of the things that we need to live full, healthy lives. The incentives of patriarchy are such that power over women winds up being a greater priority, a greater marker of manhood and status competition among men, that in many cases, they'll trade away some of these things that improve their own quality of life to maintain power over women. And one of the examples I use of this in the book is hustle culture. We know that working really long hours is really not good for anybody. It's not good for employers, first and foremost, because it rewards inefficiency, workplace performance deteriorates. It's certainly not good for men who are spending all of these extra hours in the office because it backfires in terms of their health, in terms of their stress. And when women who don't have as much access to being able to partake in hustle culture do it anyway, not only are they so burnt out because they're also managing much more of the unpaid care work on top of it, even when they work as many hours as their male peers, the research shows us that they're still not able to access the same rewards because women's long work hours are more likely to be seen as a sign of their incompetence or needing more time to get a job done relative to men who are seen as working more hours because they are more committed to their careers. That's another really great example of a double standard. Now,
sovereign, same. I really want to cry right now.
But my point being though, it's not good for anybody. But because hustle culture is still relatively more rewarding for men than it is for women, it does become a very effective way of maintaining that very gendered hierarchy of power, maintaining men's relative power over women, even though it leaves them worse off overall.
Because to the patriarchy, anything that keeps them in power, whether good, bad, ugly, doesn't matter. As long as the patriarchy is standing, even if it's standing on sand, it's still standing. It's still standing, and that's all that matters to them. It's like they're hanging on by a thread, but it's like there's still that thread that's hanging on. It's sad actually, but
the
that's just where we are.
So sad. Yeah, and it is just where we are, and it's when you talk about this stuff, it just can be so infuriating to hear it because we have been told as women, if you just do this, then it'll be easy. If you just do this and look at men, look at how they operate, etc. And it's look at men, look at how they operate. Look at what have we kind of accomplished? What is work culture now anyway?
Yeah,
and it's kind of sad. If we were to look at work culture through a more matriarchal lens, I think it would look different too, because so much of work culture, especially the stuff that women are historically gate kept out of, it's golfing, it's networking, it's stuff that, men can only do because they have wives watching their children at home. And that's why they don't fight for 50-50 custody. So everything is connected into this, men love to flex on us. Women file for 70% of divorces, blah, blah, blah. Why? Why do you think that is? Like, women can gain more by opting out of this, even though women are still punished for like being single, divorced, etc., single moms, etc. It still is more of like a benefit to a woman to just not be married, because then she doesn't, at least she's not like using her labor to provide for a man, essentially. But it's like, what is work culture like, if not, you know, like, especially so much of it, like once you get to the top, it's like they gatekeep women out of it even harder. Like you could work and work and work and work and then get to like some executive level, and then it's like all the guys are golfing, and it'd be kind of weird if you came and like, yeah, we didn't invite you because we figured you had stuff to do with the kids. Like, that's so unfair.
And I'm glad you made the point about how this is all connected. I wound up devoting almost a quarter of this book to how much inequality inside of the home actually upholds these inequalities that exist outside of it. And some of the most fascinating data to me is just how much single men's incomes track very closely with women's incomes. And what you see is most of these gaps are really happening among married men. And what we're seeing now is that as fewer people do get married, wage gaps can close a little bit among
because the
that
men are
segment.
struggling.
Well, you know, I think it just speaks to how much the men's career growth has really been subsidized by women's unpaid labor. So it's not just that single mothers actually have more free time and less household labor than married mothers, which is a wild stat on its own, but true all the same. It's also that when you are not married to a man, you're less likely to be subsidizing his career and his career advantage. And that actually might be the thing that reshapes the workplace in a way that works better for everybody. Because if you cannot continue to show up in the workplace without having to underpay or exploit someone else to do it, then the workplace is going to have to shift to accommodate more people being able to combine their personal and professional life more sustainably.
What would that look like?
I think it would be honestly completely game-changing. I talk through a lot of examples in the book about, you know, these ideas of flexible and remote work. We often think that they only have to look like one thing. And then people are always like, well, you know, I have this kind of job and you can't do it that way. But, you know, it doesn't just have to be teleworking for white collar workers. It can be an ability to switch shifts more easily for in-person work. It can be a shorter work day that you can easily swap out and have a little bit more stability to work around your particular constraints. You know, I'm married to someone who works nights and weekends. And so that is really its own special challenge to like, as someone who also needs to use childcare that's only available during the day, you know, it's really about building more flexibility into the structure of our lives so that we can piece together these schedules in a way that are much more sustainable for people across situations. And you don't have a standard where, you know, a 9-to-5 workday and an 8 to 2 p.m. school schedule with sick days every 5 seconds is creating this constant clash, because it's really just not necessary. And I show this in the research. You know, you have these work environments where people do shift to like a 6-hour workday, or they switch to a 4-day work week, or a 3-on, 3-off thing. And productivity really doesn't go down because you don't need all of the hours in most jobs to get it done. And for the jobs that are different, you know, there's always just ways to customize it differently. But I think the problem is we have such a lack of imagination. And when we said before about like the air we swim in, what we consider normal, what we just consider status quo, That, I think, is our biggest barrier to opportunity. In fact, this came up so often in the research. Even the things that I talked about being like not true, the idea that women aren't confident, aren't ambitious, these myths are so commonly told, they are accepted as common wisdom, that not only do they keep us from seeing that that's not true, but what they also effectively do is keep us from recognizing the things that would actually improve our outcomes, because we're so committed to these norms and myths and stories we tell about ourselves, about why the world looks the way it does, or should be the way it is, or must operate the way it's operating, that we never even consider that actually, first of all, this isn't true. The reason we're saying this is true isn't true, but also because it reduces support for the kinds of policies that would actually change it. So the more people believed that women were underpaid because they don't negotiate, the less likely they were to support pay equity policies, pay transparency policies, and other things that are statistically proven to close gaps. So it wasn't just a myth they were buying into, they were also buying into this status quo at the expense of supporting and implementing the very policies that shift that status quo.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why it's like everyone, especially like in the feminist space, kind of had a visceral reaction to the latest I'm just a girl trend, and like I don't want to sit under fluorescent lights, and I just want to go to the farmer's market, and I want to like lay out in the backyard and just tan, and like I don't think that I should be forced to do any of that stuff. And it's like, but when people believe that, or when men come out and say like, well, if you go to work as a woman, don't you just have to submit to like a different man? Like, aren't you just submitting to your boss instead of submitting to your husband? And I'm like, you're telling on yourself.
One pays me and the other one doesn't.
You're also telling on yourself so much more than you realize. Like, am I your employee now?
Right.
So women are your employees.
Exactly.
Got it. So women do perform labor at home, and their husband is like their boss if they don't work. What the
For free.
For free.
Right. I always like to point out that men actually have better work-life balance and more free time than women.
Absolutely.
And have more time to enjoy the personal leisure and hobbies. And they didn't have to trade in any of their professional power or their pay to access it.
Yep.
So that is always the thing that I'm going to come back with, is like, actually the thing you want is something you don't get by completely opting out of this.
Yeah.
The people who have what you want are the people who are most opted in. And what I find really frustrating is, again, the response to the broken system winds up being this hyper-personalization and individualism of the problem. And the fact is, you cannot self-care your way out of burnout, because burnout isn't an individual issue. It's a design of the system. It's an outcome of the system and the environment around you. And so I always think it's really telling that, trad wives are responding to something that's real. The reality that you are tired, that you are exhausted, that you are burnt out, that it is so hard to get ahead or feel a sense of safety or security. But they're not saying, okay, now let's get universal basic income and healthcare and the things that would make you feel less of those things and would actually enable you to engage in care work and housework more full time if that was really your choice. That's not their solution. And I think that's the biggest tell. I think the tell is that like they don't support that because it means men could do it too. And they don't really want men to do it. They're for a gender division of labor and a gender division of power. And so I just want us to have these conversations more honestly. It's not to say we can't recognize the burnout issue and the unsustainability of these systems, but let's talk about how we're going to deal with them and reshape them in a way that actually works, and not in escapist fantasies that are actually going to make it even worse than it already is.
Right, because then there's a direct pipeline to, well, now that women are not in the workforce, why should they even have the right to vote? They're not paying taxes. They're not, you
Oh
know,
my goodness.
it's representation without taxation now, right? And never mind that these women are producing, you know, children and like actually creating society, if you really think about
and
it.
creating
Like,
future taxpayers.
yeah, yeah. But it comes down to, well, what power do you now have? And it's like, well, you told me to give up that power because as a woman, it wasn't serving me. But now nothing is serving
Well,
me as a
right.
woman at all.
Yeah.
And yes, it sucks that as women, we have to like take up the mantle and like work against our own disenfranchisement or whatever. Like we have to work to not lose our own rights. And like, that's the most infuriating thing of it all. Honestly, it's like, not only is like the world just shitting on you, but you also have to clean off the shit all the time. So you don't smell, so you don't, you know, people don't look at you
that's so
funny. It's just like, oh my God, like we can never win. We can never relax. We can never just like stop. And then even within that, kind of like you said, everything we do is like gets used against us to marginalize us further. She's too young. She's too old. She's too ambitious. She wants to just be a wife and a mom, like whatever. Oh, she wants to be a boss babe. But what about, you know, being fulfilled as a wife and a mom?
And that's why we have to work collectively. You cannot individually choose your way out of this, right? I think we have seen how these movements have been effective in the past, and they have always been in collective action,
Solidarity,
not
yeah.
in solidarity, and building systemic understanding, really building out our communities. In the book, I lay out a framework of thinking about these systems, because when I say things are systemic, people are always like, well, if it's the system, what can I do about it? But it's really about recognizing the way the systems operate in all of our lives every single day, and we're interacting with them every single day. So I think of this interpersonally, the systems of your home. You know, you always think in terms of your unique relationship with your parent or your child or your spouse or your partner, but actually like these are institutions. Marriage is an institution defined by very patriarchal norms. The parent-child relationships also manifest through very patriarchal norms. And so the way you show up in these interpersonal relationships are also systemic things that you can resist against. I can resist the way I'm showing up as a mother to push back against these systems, but more importantly, to join in community with my fellow mothers so that I have their back in a way that allows them to be more resilient in challenging those systems and the status quo. Oftentimes, you know, I interviewed women whose husbands would treat them terribly when they started succeeding at work. And it was so hard for these women because not only were they suddenly facing the issues in the workplace, but they were also being undermined in the home as well. And a lot of them would get these opportunities and then feel like they couldn't take them because then they'd be subjected to backlash in their home. So they'd have a work event, and then all of a sudden, you know, the partner would be calling every 5 seconds because something is wrong with the kids and I got to go home. And then, maybe they're going to watch them, but then you're going to get the silent treatment. And is it really worth it? And then you're going to have to deal with that. And you have a family thing coming up next week and you don't want them to be weird. And you just see how it compounds and compounds and compounds. But if instead you have built a local community with your fellow moms and you know that you can set that boundary, and no matter how a child, your partner's going to act, you have someone there to step in and make sure your kids are taken care of, your home is taken care of, what you need is in place so you can go seize that opportunity. Then you have a boundary you can set in a way that you didn't have if you're just trying to do this all on your own. So that's what I mean in terms of like thinking about these interpersonal things systemically too. And then you get the institutional, then you get the workplaces, the communities, your schools, and then you get the political and cultural. And again, that's not just federal policy, that's on a state level, on a local level. You know, I'm in New York City. I just think constantly how quickly the childcare has been rolled out here this year. My daughter's going to go to public 3K in the fall. There's going to be a twos program across the city next year. And it's really just a testament to the fact that like we do not lack solutions.
No,
we lack political
or the money
will.
for them. Yeah.
We lack political will and the collective power to demand that these policies be put in place. And I am living in a place that is evidence of the fact that we can do this when that power is demanded and harnessed.
Yeah.
It's been interesting watching a lot of, feminist discourse around things like this, because especially like in America, there is a culture of hyper individuality to where other women will be like, well, why should I have to step in and provide childcare for like a whole, woman that I don't know. And then she slept with a man and now it's like my fault. And now I got to take care of her child and all of this stuff. And there's this, again, on the kind of edges of that feminist spectrum, because I think most of us get that. Like, I think most of us are like, listen, I know nobody wants to get our hands dirty, but like, it's just a thing, but seems to be this kind of like ideal or this kind of conviction that if women just stay single, they never have kids, they never get married, and they just kind of make it their mission to boss babe their way to the top, that's going to solve all of our problems. And I'm like, that's going to leave a lot of women in the dust. Like, you're going to end up making the working environment like something that only single women can participate in, or like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how do you feel about this kind of in movement sort of stratifying of like how do we kind of, because then it does get difficult, especially as someone coming from a country with socialized like childcare, socialized healthcare, that does work. Even like, it's so funny to me to think about like in 91, 90, like it took about 5 years for Ukraine to have like socialized healthcare, to have socialized childcare. Like, we didn't have to pay for any of that stuff. And you're telling me America, in all of its 250 years of being the most prosperous country, can't figure it out, right? And so then there is kind of this almost fair critique of other women saying like, well, why should I have to put in all this labor? So it's kind of like you're taking the unequal labor and you're still like putting it on women.
Yeah, I think this is all coming back to the collective well-being, right? Before we talked about how patriarchy really incentivizes us to maintain our relative status over what is going to enable the best outcomes for us in total. And I think it's the same thing when we're talking about our obligations, right? Having a frictionless life is not the goal. The goal is to have well-being regardless of the way we structure our own lives. And the way you enable well-being is by working and spreading your risk around. Like, this is how insurance works. So I'm going to put on my money hat here, or my insurance investing, like the way in which things are allowed to be made sustainable is through diversification. And the way in which we don't have any one single path that like all our policies are optimized for means that we all have to optimize for all paths. So if you want to live a life that is outside of a single norm, then you need to have policies that are going to be there to support whatever that life is. And to do that, you need to be able to support every kind of path, right? If we want to have policies that are going and we want to have communities that are there to serve us if we choose to opt into or out of, say, I don't want to have kids, say, I do want to have kids, whatever it is. What I need to make sure my interests are being weighed as much as anyone else's interests is to make sure all our interests are going to be served.
So going back to the individual, I felt not triggered. What's the word? I felt targeted or called out or whatever. Yeah. So I always looked at it like, if those of us who choose not to get married, not to have kids, the way I see it is, if more women chose that route, that would put more women in a position of, I guess, maybe some kind of power, depending on what you decide to go into career-wise, or in a position where, of course, we wouldn't have Mackenzie Scott's money, right? But we would be in a position of a Mackenzie Scott where like more women that are boss babing their way out of the patriarchy as much as possible can now help the other women. Because it's going to take us to make this change. We already know that the men are not interested in making this change. So it's like, if the women that are being left out can't do anything, that really only leaves the women who are in a position to like push that forward, if that makes sense. So if more women are opting out of the patriarchy as much as possible, that weakens the patriarchy as well. And it kind of creates a balance. I mean, it would be really screwed up if every woman kind of like followed the exact same path. We would all be at the start of nowhere, going nowhere fast. So it's like, for those of us who are like, okay, I'm going to be an individual here and I'm just going to like opt out of motherhood, opt out of being a wife, and I'm going to go do this. And as I make money, because I have no problem paying taxes that goes towards like women in childcare, for an example. Mm-hmm. No problem. I love that idea. But we wouldn't be able to do that if all the women were just like, oh, we're just going to, be stay-at-home wives and mothers, and we're not going to, get out there and work. Women, there's going to take a certain percentage of us to be on that side in order for any change to come. Don't you think?
Well, most mothers work. The vast majority of mothers at work. And I actually think that's very important because I think what we know is that a lot of these gender norms, what we call norms, but are really just, stereotypes, are passed down. They're passed down through modeling. So boys who are raised by mothers who are engaged in the paid labor force are more likely to then have more equitable marriages themselves. Girls who have mothers who are engaged in the paid labor force, also more likely to be engaged in the paid labor force themselves, more likely to be in high-paying roles. Kids who have fathers who are engaged in household labor in a meaningful capacity, that's one of their best predictors of whether they will have a more equitable relationship and view of gender ideals going forward. So I didn't know if I was going to have a kid. Like the day I went to the hospital to have my kid, I wasn't sure I wanted to do that. And I was 37. So I'm very sympathetic to like the being single and not having kids. And I remember that so well, and just the way that was so stigmatized. Mm-hmm. But I think being a mom also made it clear, like it really isn't something that I could have chosen one way or the other that would have really made the difference. What really makes the difference is how I show up in either role in a way that challenges an idea of the power women are allowed to access and who our labor is designed to serve. And so I actually think one of the most powerful groups is single mothers. I think, unfortunately, the system really, really works to disempower single mothers in a way that I think is criminal. Right. But I think the way in which single motherhood is being increasingly, like single mothers coming together, really harnessing their collective power, finding resources and community sharing, we're really seeing that story of single motherhood taking new shape as a really, really powerful push back against a lot of these systems that say, actually, it wasn't the kid. It wasn't having a kid all along. It was the idea that being a mother means I automatically lose my own ambition, my own sense of self. If to be a good mom means self-abandonment and self-erasure, I'm not going to do that. Mm-hmm. So I certainly think mothers, and single women, honestly, everybody, all women, I think we all have an opportunity and a role to play in how we're shifting this.
I agree. Yeah. And I couldn't agree more. I think a lot of times single women, or just people in general, underestimate the power of single mothers. But you have to understand, when you're literally pulling, you're wearing a weighted vest or whatever. If you take that shit off, those women will run further. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. There's a certain privilege to not having kids. There's certain, you're fighting, you're literally not fighting for your life in every day in certain aspects, the way that single mothers are. And then on top of that, to think about the fact that they are, willing to create community and willing to think of all these ways that they could still help each other. It's I think it gives us other women something to really look at and learn from, because I guarantee you that once these systems start collapsing, which is what we want, right? once this shit starts collapsing and once there's no more of this idea of like boss babing your way out via capitalism and even like using it for good and like using the money to spread around whatever, that's going to ruin it. So even if you do that, that system will eventually crumble and we're going to have no concept of money. And guess who everyone's going to run to and look to and turn to? Oh, help us. It's going to be the women that have been doing the hard fucking work. Like the hard work of like, yeah, we watch each other's kids. Yes, we do. It's not glamorous. It sucks. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, that's why I like to do the same kind of thing as like a woman who doesn't have kids. Like I participate in that community. Like I participate in like, hey, I see that you're struggling. Like, let me help out. Let me come over, you know, and like, so you can work or whatever with my friends that have kids, because it is so, our liberation is so tied together, especially when we think about the day that these systems actually start crumbling. And I, again, as somebody who was born in 1991, the Soviet Union is fucking crumbling, right? My mom is to stand in line for bread. And who was her community? It was other single moms.
Other women.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Other women. It wasn't, you know, men that swooped in and like, you know, protected her, provided for her. It wasn't, you know, there was no system of capitalism. You know what I'm saying? Like she couldn't, you know, like people, even the people that were working for tickets, like food tickets. Like you're not even working for money to like be free and liberal. You couldn't leave the country. You could work your ass off and they would pay you in papers. Like you can go stand in line for bread. You can go stand in line for shoes. There's no guarantee the shoes are going to be your size or anything. So I'm just saying, like, when we think about all of this stuff, you know, especially as like single and child-free women, it's like there's an interesting like aspect of it to where it's like, what's our plan though? Once the systems actually do collapse, what's our plan? And it's like you have to look to the women who have already been functioning as though those systems don't serve them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think you're making a good point as like, sometimes we frame this in terms of childcare just because childcare is such an acute need in those years, but it's really community care, right? And that is a system of give and take that's there and to support everybody in young life and older life. And then, you know, as life happens, because life happens, you know, my sister a couple months after turning 30 had a cancer diagnosis, right? And she's okay now. But like, again, it's that the labor of care is not limited to only, you know, motherhood or children.
I think about that too. People act like nothing's ever going to happen to them. And I'm like, what about when you, seriously, because like there are rising rates of cancer. Like everything is trying to kill us that we eat and put in our body. And it's like, so what are you going to do as like a single child-free woman if you don't have community and you get a life devastating diagnosis, but you built your life on, I can boss babe my way out of this patriarchy. Yeah. That's going to be a lot harder because all your money is going to be going to like cancer treatments or whatever. And it's like, you're going to need community. It's like very dangerous for us to think that kind of the other way, like of the trad wife coin is thinking, well, I'll just cozy up to daddy capitalism, you know, benevolent capitalism. It's like, no, it's not how it works.
Exactly. It's the same hyper individualism. It is so risky. It's like, again, putting all your money in a single stock and like hoping you're going to be okay financially for the future. No, it's insane. Whether it's your husband or your boss, if all of your eggs are in a single basket, you're screwed. We've got to diversify. We've got to diversify not only our sources of economic security and autonomy, but also diversify our community support, diversify our sources of meaning, our relationships, all of the things that provide value and meaning and support for living a truly full life. And that's really the message of the book. You know, it starts out as this very workplacey book, but it expands and expands and expands because, to what we said earlier, this is all connected. And the way you really break free of so many of these systems is also through that same framework of getting out of the just me version of it, or thinking there's some way I can like make the right choices and self-optimize myself, when in reality, I need to be expanding outward, really creating these systems of community care, showing up, being showed up for, and really like taking a page out of the history books, out of labor unions, out of the civil rights movement, the women's movement. Like, we have a framework for the stuff that works, but we're still doubling down on this myth that we can just like self-care or self-optimize our way out of it. And it's exhausting all of us.
I couldn't agree more. And I just, we could obviously stay here and talk about this for like 3 more hours. I have unfortunately gotten the wrap-up signal from the man that's policing our no, I'm just kidding.
We need them too.
Well, listen, that's why we have a producer, because otherwise it's like we really could sit here, because this is why I'm excited about the book, because like the progression of all of that, kind of as you described it, I think is going to really open people's eyes. And so we just couldn't be more happy and, excited to be part of, the promo tour. And I know you're kind of encouraging people to pre-order the book. So do you want to kind of tell us more about that and like how people can support your work? Because we couldn't dedicate enough time to this if we wanted to. This is such an important conversation.
I am so grateful to be here. I really appreciate the work you're doing. The book is The Ambition Penalty: How Corporate Culture Tells Women to Step Up and Then Pushes Them Down. You can order it wherever you get your books. You can ask your local bookstore to stock it, support a local business. Even if you buy it, you can still ask your local library to stock it. Or if you have a budget issue, you can ask your local library to stock it, request it on Libby. These are all really valuable ways to support the book. Share it with people. I'm on social media at Stefanie O'Connell. You can share that content with people and maybe they'll want to buy the book. So, whether you can afford to buy it or not, there's certainly a lot of ways to engage in this message. And I think we know how important it is to challenge these myths and narratives that are the water we swim in. So I hope we can find ways to do that. And I appreciate being able to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have some people, they'll say, I prefer that you get it from the website instead of Amazon, or I prefer Amazon, or do you have one?
I don't have a preference.
Okay.
I want whatever is easiest for people to buy the book. My preference is if people buy it either before the book comes out or the first week it comes out. It's May 19th it comes out.
Okay.
So soon.
Yes. My preference would be to buy it in that first week, because that's really important for saying, there's really demand for this message. So we're going to, it'll get bookstores to stock it. It'll get libraries to stock it. It'll get people to talk about it more. So that's my only preference, whatever works for people.
That's good to know.
Fantastic. And yeah, y'all go watch Stefanie's interviews, because there, before the book comes out, if you really want to get a good idea of just how many angles there are to this thing, this is kind of why I said, we really could talk about this for hours, because the stuff I heard you covering in the other interviews, it's like it truly is like a prism that you can just keep turning and seeing all the different sides of it, and it all looks different. So before the book comes out, make sure that you support, by watching interviews, by sharing with other women that men and of course, when the book comes out, do your best. We got to support other women as much as we can. And this is what the podcast has always been about. So
definitely,
I really hope that we can show up. So
thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on. And I'm sure we'll have you back. So
anytime.
Yeah.
This is such a pleasure.
Hopefully we will see you again soon, but congrats on the book.
Yes, congratulations.
Yeah. All right. And we'll be right back, y'all, with our mailbag.
Welcome back. So we're just going to get right into this mailbag. So our listener says, hi, Lisa and Sovereign. I love your podcast, even though I'm just 19. Laugh out loud. That's wonderful. I know. I love that.
My little baby.
I know. I just listened to your podcast called Can Christian Women Be Feminist? It was hard, but I was glad I listened to it. When I saw the clip of what is typically considered a Christian feminist, I was upset, because while I do consider myself a feminist, I do not think like that at all. I believe each woman should do what they want with their body, in trans rights and in bodily autonomy. I also do not get my morals from the Bible. I just be a good person. I would kind of consider myself an oxymoron when it comes to believing what I believe. especially with the whole, quote, men should lead, end quote. I don't follow that, nor do I want kids. So I'm pro-choice when it comes to kids. Sorry if this is too much information. I just look up to a lot of women feminists, and I struggle to hear how I'm a hypocrite for believing in LGBTQ rights, being pro-choice, and liberation for oppressed groups in countries like Gaza, Sudan, and Congo, while also believing in the teachings of Jesus. I do want to say I am not offended or upset. I just want to be educated more. I guess I'm not a true Christian because I do not think too deep. Like, my Catholicism goes as far as just being a good person and treating each person I meet with respect. So I guess I ignore 95% of the Bible, laugh out loud. I do not follow the male superiority idea. I was not raised with that. Thus, all the points you guys said that Christian women follow, I go against all those points. So I'm conflicted. Can I really not believe feminist points and Catholic points? Am I against a lot of Catholic points, but I wouldn't consider myself a non-Catholic? I agree with a lot of feminist ideas, but does that mean I'm not a good feminist? But I do agree with the fact that Christianity has a negative effect, as I tend not to be able to have other Christian friends due to them not being pro-LGBTQ rights, especially trans rights, or their idea of abortion. I'm pro-choice, even pro-abortion. I see women as leaders, so that is why I am seeking advice from you guys. This is very interesting.
It is very interesting. Yeah, I bet the Catholics don't really like the pro-choice part or the pro-abortion, because as far as I know, it's like you're not even supposed to use preventative methods if you're a Catholic,
right?
To prevent, like, you're not even supposed to use condoms.
You're going against the being fruitful and multiply thing.
Yeah. I mean, I have like a lot of thoughts.
I do too.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, like, the kind of cool thing about feminism is that you can hold all of these beliefs and not have to label yourself as anything per se. Like, you can say I'm a feminist because I believe in women's rights, I'm pro-choice, I believe in LGBTQ rights, all of that. That makes you a feminist, right?
Yep.
On the other hand, if you were to come up into a church and say, I'm a Christian, but I believe... I'm pro-choice. I believe in trans rights. I believe in gay rights. Like, I believe that women are leaders. They would kick you right out.
Yeah, absolutely.
They would be like, no, we don't want you. Whereas in the feminist circles, you could still say,
welcome you with open arms.
Welcome you with open arms, because I'm one of those women too that, like, my post deconstruction, I actually started understanding Jesus's words more, not less. And like, he's kind of the sore thumb that sticks out in the Bible. Like, everything else in the Bible is like one thing, and then the way that Jesus talks is another thing. And he is like, has a very specific message, and I don't think it really even fits in with the rest of the Bible. But that's like a whole other thing.
Literally
and it's like,
doesn't.
We can talk about that in feminist circles, right? Like, there's nobody's going to be like, no, you're not a feminist because you agree with some of what Jesus said and you ignore 95% of the Bible. But what people will tell you on the other side is that you can't ignore 95% of the Bible and still be a Christian. You can't believe that women are leaders and still be a Christian. You can't believe in birth control and still be a Catholic. So it's kind of like you're kind of answering your own question. It's like, which one are you? Like, where would you be accepted, do you think?
And this is just my own observation. I'm gonna be a little frank here when I say this. The human side of you is what believes in trans rights, LGBTQ, women being leaders, because that's the natural way. The religious dogma is just that. It's just an indoctrination. It's just a bunch of lies. And the reason why you're conflicted is because you are going literally against yourself to believe in lies. That's why you're more so on this side, because this is who you are. This is your humanity, versus the religious side of it is just like, oh, you're supposed to be this and you're supposed to do that. And there are no women leaders and men are superior. And you're not, and that's why you're conflicted, because you're like, it's almost like if you know for a fact that your calling is to be a neurosurgeon, and people are telling you, no, but you should be a teacher or you should go study starfish. And you're just like, okay, maybe I'll go study starfish and I'll do it. But it's like, but I really want to be a neurosurgeon. That's because that's who you are at your core. That's what you want to do. That is your calling. And I'm just using this as an example. When you fight against, even if your parents want you to do something and you're like, I want to do it to make them happy, but it's really not making me happy. I really want to do this over here. It's that same kind of conflict. And at the end of the day, you need to follow your own gut. You need to follow who you are, what speaks true to you. And it's not being a Catholic. I'm sorry. And I don't want to say it like that, because I feel like everybody has their beliefs and their religious beliefs. I get that. But I almost want to say you have to kind of make a decision. Otherwise, you're going to go through your life in limbo forever, in conflict, back and forth with yourself. And I just don't, and that's just my opinion. I don't think both can really exist with each other long term.
Because you're just going to masters.
You can't serve two masters. You're going to be fighting against yourself literally until the day you die, until you decide. And I feel like you're on the right side of life, the right side of history, the right side of your womanhood by believing in trans rights, being LGBTQ. That's your human side. That's the side that matters to me. That's just my opinion.
I couldn't agree more. And then like two more things that I just want to say, being that, you're 19, is that this is all something you're deconstructing like in real time. And this is something that a lot of Christians kind of struggle with. It's like, can Christianity be a force for good? Like, a lot of people are like, but I had so much faith in this institution, and I would hate to see it as just a waste of time and breath and space and this, ultimately evil thing that upholds other oppressive systems. And a lot of people go through almost this bargaining period of like, yeah, but if I can still be a Christian, I would just have to deconstruct. I would just have to not believe 95% of the things that are in the Bible.
Right.
And it's like, well,
so then what's the point?
You could, but like, you know what I'm saying? It seems like you agree with 95% of feminism, you know what I'm saying? And then you only agree with 5% of Christianity. So like, you have to also look at like the facts, kind of like Sovereign was saying, like you're bought into one side. Like that's looking at this from the outside. It's like, I wouldn't call you a Christian. I would say you are a feminist. Like based on what you wrote, I wouldn't be like, that's a Christian person if we took that whole thing out of it. And then also like another thing to think about just on its face, like what is serving you more? What is serving you and the kind of world you want to live in more? Is it the belief that everybody deserves equal rights? And is it the belief that women should be leaders? Is it the belief that, everybody deserves to like share space in ways with each other? Or is it the anti-LGBTQ, anti-choice, men as leaders, like oppressive, like Christian system? Like what's serving you more?
Right. And I want to point out what you're going through right now is very similar, if not maybe even identical to many women who have been religious and have deconstructed. It's just that right now you're in the thick of it. Like Lisa said, you're going through it right now in real time. And we've been here. And if you really are going to listen to your gut and listen to what's right for you, you're going to end up on the other side anyways, which is women's rights, women's movement, love all people, treat people the way you want to be treated. And when it comes to the religious aspects, like the Bible and stuff, this is what I say about everything. Chew the meat, spit out the bones. Take what you can from it and then move on. Because really the real premise should just be treat people the way you want to be treated. That's it. Understand the consequences. Your actions have consequences, and move accordingly. And that's it. And then everything else falls into place. When you treat people the way you want to be treated in life, typically everything else falls in place as far as your own internal morality. You don't need like she said, I don't need a Bible to be a good person. You don't. None of us did. We've all been indoctrinated to believe this stuff.
Christianity either. You don't need this label of like, I'm a Christian. Like,
and it's going to be difficult. I'm going to say moving forward, because you're so young, just be careful with who you surround yourself with. If you are surrounded by a lot of religious people, the vast majority of them are not going to understand where you're coming from. And they may even shame you and try to get you to come back. Just be very careful. As you get older, it's going to become easier for you to navigate it. I don't think it'll ever be completely easy for most people, because we live in this society that's like, you need to be this way. But it will become easier over time as you get older and have more experience, because you already are starting to see things for what it is. And it's just going to grow as you get older. So just be very mindful and be very careful with who you talk to this about. But I'm going to tell you, in my opinion, you're on the right side of history already.
Yeah.
You already know who you are. At 19, you already know where you, or at least who you want to be.
Gosh, yeah, you're like way ahead of the
You're
curve.
already
like
ahead.
It takes a lot of women a lot longer, and
Absolutely.
not that it's a race, not that it's a competition, but there's
an upside to it.
There's an upside to realizing it early in life.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. It'll save you a lot of heartache. It'll save you a lot of like learning things the hard way.
Yes.
It's definitely a good thing that you're here now, because your whole life is ahead of you.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
absolutely.
saying? Like you've got this, and we're rooting for you. And whatever you decide ultimately, like, it doesn't really matter. Like Sovereign said, just live your life as the way that you want, treat people the way that you want to be treated. And that should take care of like 99% of
Literally.
everything, you know, and just take care of yourself. So,
And
yeah.
thanks for writing in. This was
Yeah.
very interesting. Like I love this. I love it.
Yeah.
I love how young how young she is, and she's already on that
Yeah.
path.
Yeah.
This stuff like this to me is like, let's say she goes on to write a book or something later or whatever. These are the moments where it's like you can already
100%.
see a great woman in the making already.
Oh,
Even if she doesn't
facts.
realize it herself. Like I already see like she's already in her forward thinking already at 19. And I just love it.
Mhm. Yeah.
I love it.
We love to see it. All right. Well, it's time to read our poll results and give our recommendation. Although if you listen to the show, you already know what our recommendation is going to be. But let's get our polls read. So we have, what's the fastest way to be labeled a horrible, mean, bad woman? And that's shout out to our special guest, Sarah, that we had on last week, who is a horrible, mean, bad woman. And that's exactly what she taught us to be. And we're very grateful to her. So the quickest ways, we've got having standards and boundaries. We've got B, not centering men's feelings. C, saying no without explanation. And D, refusing to tolerate disrespect.
What was the exact question again? Say it again.
What's the fastest way to be labeled a horrible, mean, bad woman?
All of the above, obviously.
I know, right? We always get that comment. People are always like, it's all of the above. And true, facts, you know?
I would say having standards.
They do hate that.
That's not it though.
They do hate that.
That's the beginning of it all. You have standards and you are a mean, evil. You're a man hater. You're a misandrist.
And you're
Because
never going to get a man either. So like,
you have standards. You deserve to die alone with your cats. Yeah.
that won on 2 of the polls. The only one it didn't win on is the Spotify one, which we had not centering men's feelings, but it was a close second. So you actually got it right. But
But not centering men's feelings is literally that. Yeah, they see it as misandry. They see it. If you're saying I'm focusing on myself, that's man hatred to them. It's crazy.
No, the way when you talked about that last week, it was like, yeah, like they perceive women focusing on themselves as misandry for sure. For sure.
Which is crazy.
It's
like
insane.
it is so like the mental gymnastics that they have to go through, play on themselves to believe that is crazy. I just
All right, let's see some of the comments. Someone said, state any preference of yours, no matter how big or small. Like, I don't do coffee dates. That's a good one. That's like goes into standards. We had the first thing that popped into my head when I saw the title of this post was just saying no.
literally to anything. No.
That's a good one. Someone else said, upstage a man. Be competent while he's struggling. Beware, though, this is often met with violence. Being better than a man can cause you harm or even death. We talked about this in tea time.
Yep.
It's all very true.
It's so sad. It's sad. You have to laugh.
It's
to keep
sad
from,
because the women always have like even more options in the comments of just like how it sucks to try and just live as a woman. It's like, oh, you can even just say no, and that'll piss them off. You know, it's terrible.
It is pretty terrible.
All right. Well, our recommendation, as always, is that y'all listen to the person who was our guest. And please do check out Stefanie's work and all the interviews that she's kind of done on this book promo tour, because they are all really, really good. And I've seen that, a few of them have a pretty low like view count. And please don't let that discourage you, because I tell you, like, just because a video doesn't have many views does not mean it's not a total gem. And it's not a good
Absolutely.
interview. Like a lot of these interviews were so well done, so profound. It was like criminal, the amount of views that they actually had. So please, let's do our part and support.
As a matter of fact, I think a lot of the best videos may have the lower views because people just don't tune into it until it's too late. Like it's like, this. And also too, her book release is the 19th. So that week will definitely, if you guys are interested in the book, I know I can't wait to get it. It's almost like if you like a video, it gets pushed out in the algorithm sort of thing. So yeah, the week of the 19th is when it's released. So if you're interested in the book, maybe try to get it. I know everybody can't. I know that. But if you can, try to get it that week because that'll help her out a lot.
Yeah. Or request it from like your local bookstores or libraries or whatever.
Even just requesting it. Yeah, she did say that. Just requesting it. Yeah, absolutely.
Even just Googling it. I mean, if you're really like, no, I'm like so down on resources, like at least, you know, kind of, because that's the other thing is like it will push it out. So like search it, put it in the search bars and whatnot. But
absolutely.
It's really, really cool to see such a comprehensive work. And, you know, she put so much research into it and so much just like of her labor. And it's like women already do so much labor for society that like we definitely want to reward it, especially when it's going to help so many other women. I was just going
to say, anything that's helping other women, this is where we are now. We have to start really supporting each other even in the smallest ways possible.
Yeah.
Because every woman that is doing something to help women as a whole is going to get us that much closer to a matriarchy. So if y'all want to live in a matriarchy, like y'all always say, okay, these are the little steps that we have to take. And it may seem minuscule, but they actually turn out to be really big things later, you know? So just keep that in mind.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we will see y'all next week with what I'm sure will be a very compelling topic. We've had a lot of really good listener suggestions over the past few months, and I've been like screenshotting all of the comments. So we might go through and just like pick one of those because we have a lot to choose from. And if not, I'm sure it'll be something that we're equally as excited to talk about. So we will see you next week. And I hope y'all have an awesome, awesome week. Bye.
Bye.